Hello and welcome to this retrospective look at what's inside this 1986 Look-In TV annual. Look-In magazine itself always ends up being an amazing time capsule of events, music and TV shows from the time, and annuals always seem to conjure up memories of Christmas mornings when we'd often receive these books as stocking fillers, so this one's kind of a double whammy of nostalgia. This particular book contains 80 pages, including the covers, and we'll be taking a detailed look at each double-page spread in full HD to get a feel for what it would have been like to read it at the time. And as always, don't forget you can use the chapter markers that I've placed along the video timeline to skip around to different pages if you need to. So let's take a look inside, starting with the front cover, which features that iconic Look-In logo, which did change a few times over the years, but this will be the 1986 version. Not much more information on the front other than a decent selection of pictures of some of the celebs that will be featured inside. Mr. T, Nik Kershaw, Super Gran, Roland Rat, Zara Long, who won Olympic medals for swimming in the 1980s, George Michael, TV presenter Sue Robbie, Jan Michael Vincent from Airwolf, pro BMX rider Andy Ruffle, and Glynis Barber and Michael Brandon, aka Dempsey and Makepeace. We get to see the original price of the annual here in the bottom right underneath a scene from the filming set for an episode of Knight Rider, with David Hasselhoff giving us a suitably suspicious looking glance through one of Kit's open windows. £3.25 was the asking price, and if you want a copy now it's inevitably eBay, and current prices are still around that, so if you're desperate for a copy of your own, that's pretty much what you'll be paying. Quick shout out also to Claude Duval, the original owner of this 1986 annual, who's written his name there in black biro. We've gone all blue on pages 4 and 5, starting with an overview of who's who from the front cover, and I will admit I had to refer to this to work out who some of those people were. And over on the right, the contents page. A few vague titles mixed in here too that don't give much of a clue as to what's coming up. Two heads are better than one, for example, which is over the next page, but who knows what that'll be. But they have at least organised the items into helpful categories. Features, the Pleased to Meet You pages, which generally give us pictures and personal details about specific celebrities, picture strips, and puzzle and joke pages. Mystery solved over the page now, with the aforementioned two heads are better than one. This 6-page feature explores the history of double acts, from dancers Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers right through to the more up-to-date George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley from Wham! Other honourable mentions include Robert Wagner and Stephanie Powers from the Heart to Heart TV show, The Eurythmics, Tears for Fears, Strawberry Switchblade, Starsky and Hutch, Batman and Robin, John and Ponch from the Chips TV show about motorcycle cops in the California Highway Patrol, Arthur Daly and Terry McCann from Minder, and that crime-solving duo from the front cover of the annual, Dempsey and Makepeace. Tommy and Bobby, Cannon and Ball, bring us our first picture strip in the annual, a black and white hand-drawn strip. In Bumper Jumper, Tommy Cannon and Bobby Ball are causing havoc as they go shopping for a new jumper to replace one that's been shrunk in the wash. Bobby ends up in a makeshift straitjacket which Tommy has fashioned out of an oversized jumper in order to keep him out of harm's way. The first Pleased to Meet You is all about George Michael. A couple of pictures of the man himself, and that page on the right could technically be cut out as a poster, but I don't think that was the original intention. And there's a detailed column of text all about George and his journey to pop stardom. The first of 4 fun assortment pages of jokes and puzzles kicks off with a colouring in puzzle, What's the Programme? A quick quiz about the stars of Band-Aid, a selection of 9 jokes contained in the black geometric boxes, some jumbled up features of 3 well-known stars in Who's Here, and a Find the Treasure puzzle, requiring you to join up pairs of rhyming objects to locate the hidden treasure. As is often the case, the answers are printed upside down in a tiny box, so I'll bring those up properly on screen now for any of you who happen to be curious. Well, brace yourselves for excitement as we take a delve over the next 4 pages into the history of Royal Mail in this special feature, The First Post. They've tentatively claimed that this is related to Look-In by pointing out that many TV shows and magazines like this one receive many thousands of letters in the course of a year. They go through the Royal Mail's history from the year 1635, when King Charles I opened up the Royal Mail service to the general public, to 1911 when airmail aeroplane transport was first introduced. The feature finishes up with a column about Sue Robbie, who presented a TV show called First Post on children's ITV and went on to appear in shows like Hold Tight and Connections. Another Pleased to Meet You page, this time featuring Jan Michael Vincent, who played the lead role of Stringfellow Hawk in Airwolf. As with the previous George Michael entry, we get a couple of pictures and a column of info explaining what it was like for him, landing the role of Stringfellow Hawk, plus a little bit about his other acting roles and some of his favourite pastimes and places. Spot the Difference with Super Gran is our next puzzle page, which uses a scene from the filming of the TV show as a Spot the Difference quiz. They've done a pretty good Photoshop job here, introducing 13 visual differences between the 2 photos, and again I'll pop up the answers on screen from the upside down box. As a bonus, we also get 5 jokes here too in the coloured boxes at the bottom, although there must have been some kind of space filler as they are completely unrelated to Super Gran. Winning the award for the longest title in the book, it's a pint of milk, a loaf of bread and a magic ray machine, please. The clue's in the ray machine reference, as it's all about Gran, who was given her powers after being zapped by a ray machine. This 4-page feature is all about the props that were used in the production of the TV show, including that memorable flying bike that Gran used to get around on. The details shared in this feature come from an interview with George Carter, the senior production buyer, and credit to Look in here, as I actually learned something new from this article. I never realised that the word prop in this context is short for properties. I always thought it was a reference to how the items were propping up a performance. Just shows there's always something new we can learn at any age. Hey, Rat fans, it's time for Roland Rat to get his moment in the spotlight. Not that Roland Rat Superstar, as he liked to be known, was ever short of spotlight, but here he is in his own Pleased to Meet You page with the usual pictures and info column. I was mad for Roland Rat stuff back then, and I went crazy for any old Roland Rat guff I could get my hands on, so this article would have been a definite highlight. The column covers his rise to fame from TVAM's sidekick to pop chart stardom with his hit records Rat Rapping and Love Me Tender, an Elvis cover no less, among others. And he had an album out too, which I still have in my vinyl collection even now. Okay, it's a proper space filler here with a reprint of an old Nik Turpin picture strip from, as they explain in the intro, some years ago. This spans 16 pages, and I can only imagine they were under some kind of time pressure to fill an 80-page annual, as I feel kind of cheated as a reader. I knew this would be a challenge, trying to narrate over 8 page turns, all containing the same content, so I've aimed to flip the pages a little bit more quickly this time, and I will admit to having to waffle a little bit more than usual just to get through the page turns. But here it is, a 16-page adventure based on the TV show about Nik Turpin, starring Richard O'Sullivan, which aired over 4 series between 1979 and 1982. On the plus side, we do get the entire story, which would originally have been spread over a number of look-in issues, so we get to enjoy the conclusive ending at least, where Nik Turpin and his pals get to celebrate their triumph by going for a slap-up meal at a local hostelry. Our second fun assortment on pages 48 and 9 brings us a pretty nifty brand names quiz with an impressive 15 logos from famous food products. I managed to get 12 of these right, only missing out on numbers 4, 5 and 9. And if you pause the video here, you can have a go at that yourself, and I'll pop the answers box up on screen again in a few moments like last time. Over on the right we get an animal word search, 3 jokes and a Snakes Alive snake maze, and as promised here's that answers box to reveal what those brand name logos were. Let me know in the comments if you beat my best effort of 12 out of 15. The next 6 pages are all about bikes and biker sports, from BMX and track cycling to speedway and motocross. It starts on page 50 here with a Pleased to Meet You page all about Britain's top BMX rider Andy Ruffle, before moving on to a 4-page spread covering other types of two-wheeled sports called Fun and Thrills on 2 wheels. As well as BMX, we get short articles about speedway, ice speedway, motocross, enduro, trials racing, grass track racing, road cycle events, track events and pursuit racing. Sport continues over on pages 56 and 57 with this swimming-themed fun assortment, starting with a 10-question quiz about swimming facts before moving on to a Who Are They picture quiz where you have to match the names of the famous swimmers, and jumbled fish, an anagram quiz involving fish species. There's also another 3 jokes to enjoy, plus the obligatory upside-down answers box, which I'll do the honours on again here for all you quiz and puzzle enthusiasts. Mr. T features in the next Pleased to Meet You page, covering facts about his weight and height, how much his jewellery is worth, 150 grand apparently, his real name, Lawrence Tureau, and other interesting stuff like his hometown, schooling, personal interests and his acting career. There's enough to make your hair stand on end in this 4-page feature about famous celebrities and pop stars who had memorable hairstyles. There have been a fair few over the years, but in this article they've chosen to single out a few of the more memorable ones, including Elvis Presley, the Beatles, Boy George, Toyah Willcox and Adam Ant, plus over the page, Bob Marley, Grace Jones, Neil from the Young Ones, and my personal favourite of course, Telly Savalas aka Kojak, my man. The last fun assortment page in the annual brings us a quick history quiz, a generous 9 jokes inside those black geometric boxes, and a Who's This jumbled celebrity face puzzle. The entire second page is taken up by a quiz about Dempsey and Makepeace, and a nice big picture of the both of them. And again, here's a clearer image of the answers box, just in case you desperately need to know what country Glennis Barber was originally born in. The final Pleased to Meet You page features Nik Kershaw, who, according to this page, quit his A-levels to become a pop star, was rejected by 30 record companies before being signed to MCA Records, and almost took a job as a double glazing salesman during that time when things weren't looking promising. Good job it did work out, otherwise we would never have got to hear 80s classics like I Won't Let the Sun Go Down on Me and Wouldn't It Be Good. Tommy and Bobby make a return in the second Cannonball picture strip, this time in travel trouble. They're dreaming of a holiday in Greece, but of course being these two, they get into various scrapes and end up getting stuck in a broken down car, and in true comedic style they finish off the story with a suitably corny pun covered in car grease. This 6-page article, starting at page 70, brings us speeding towards the last few pages of the annual, and it's all about TV soap operas. Good clean fun takes us on a journey starting from Coronation Street and stopping off along the way at Crossroads, American sitcoms Days of Our Lives and Soap, Emmerdale Farm, Brookside, Grange Hill, Take the High Road, EastEnders, more American soaps including Dallas Dynasty and MASH, and some obvious classic Australian soaps including The Young Doctors and A Country Practice, although Sons and Daughters isn't mentioned for some reason, and obviously Prisoner Cell Block H would have been way too mature for a kids annual, so I guess that's a given. Almost there now, with just 5 pages to go, including the back cover, and on page 76 it's the last of the features. The Years of 86 delves into some of the more significant historical events from the last 9 centuries, specifically in year 86 of each century. I'll mention a few highlights to give you a flavour. William the Conqueror's Doomsday Book in 1086, the death of Scottish King Alexander III in a horse riding accident in 1286, the first lifeboat station was built in Northumberland in 1786, and Carl Benz designed the first successful petrol-driven car in 1886, which had 3 wheels and a top speed of 8 miles per hour. On these last 2 pages before the back cover, there's another scene from the set of Super Gran showing various actors and crew members hard at work. The text in the box covers a little bit about the scene, as well as referring us to pages 24, 5 and 6 for more Super Gran type fun. And the back cover to finish off with is almost exactly the same as the front, with the same celebrity photos down each side, but with the middle panel switching out the logo and title for a taster of the type of content you can expect inside, and a massive barcode because I guess it has to go somewhere. So apart from a quick look at what's printed on the spine, that brings us to the end of this Look In TV annual from 1986. I asked for your comments to feature here in this video about any of the contents from this 1986 annual, or about Lookin' in general, and you didn't fail to deliver, so here's what some of you had to say. Fuzzy on Blue Sky Social read Lookin' for over a decade, probably around 1982 to 91, but can't remember getting the annuals. He does however have vivid memories of the TV and film articles in the weekly magazine, the posters they give away, and I for one had many of those on my walls over the years, and the pop lyric pages, which back then were pretty much the only way to double check what the words were on some of our favourite chart hits. Postcard on a Pint on YouTube had this very annual and loved Look-In magazine. There were some great comic strips, and they still have all the Look-Ins with Shakin' Stevens on the cover. That special issue with E.T. on the front page and the free 3D glasses is also unforgettable, and you can actually have a look at that one for yourself too, as I've done a RetroSpectives video on it, so I'll stick a link to that in the description. Jamie Bowden Johnson on Facebook laments the fact that he wasn't allowed to watch any of the silly shows on ITV, so never really had a chance to read Look-In. However, he does remember the Beeb magazine, which was the BBC's version of Look-In, and I would like to do a video on one of those, but they're quite expensive on eBay at the moment, and I'm not sure how well they'd be received as a video. So if you'd be interested in seeing a Beeb magazine video, let me know in the comments. Alan Pryor on YouTube loved Airwolf, as it was around that time he wanted to join the Air Force, so seeing a military helicopter on screen was great. Alan thought it might have been a modified Bell 320 helicopter that they used for the show, however Safir Ahmed in the replies clarified that it was a Bell 222A, and I actually found some interesting info about the history of that helicopter in an Airwolf wiki website. Apparently the Airwolf chopper was involved in a crash during a thunderstorm in 1992 while being used as an air ambulance, and its 3 passengers sadly died in the accident. You can read more about the Airwolf helicopter's history on that page, which I've linked to in the description. Bren P on YouTube shared some great memories of Super Gran. It was an era when superhero movies and TV shows didn't take themselves too seriously, and Super Gran was one of the most joyfully absurd. The main actors Gudrun Ure and Ian Cuthbertson played their parts to perfection, and Billy Connolly's wonderful theme song is still memorable to this day. El Ritmo on YouTube continues with the Super Gran memories, pointing out that the show featured one of the best names for a villain ever, the Scunner Campbell. El Ritmo also remembers not being able to stand Roland Rat, but has warm fuzzy nostalgic feelings for Mr. T and Airwolf, and also mentions the strong effects that Glynis Barber from Dempsey and Makepeace had on him, although it would be many years later before he realised exactly what those feelings were. And finally, Ryan O'Neill on Mastodon's only Look-In memories are of the La 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 Look-In advert jingles, which is going back a fair way now, as these went out on TV during the 1970s.
La 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 Look-In! Look-In every week for explosive action with the Bionic Woman and the $6 Million Man.
If you've been nostalgically stimulated by any of the content featured here in this video, go ahead and tell us all about it in the comments and I'll be happy to have a chat with you down there. And if you'd like your thoughts featured in a future RetroSpectives video, follow me on my various social media platforms where I'll be asking for your input whenever I'm working on something new. Beyond that, I'd like to thank everyone who provided comments for this video, to thank you for liking and subscribing, and of course to thank you all for watching RetroSpectives.